There have been two people, basically, who have had the job in the past. And the tradition sort of started in the last administration with the vice chair resigning at the time. And now you've got Michael Barr following through, because basically you get a new administration like this with a big philosophical change, and it's going to be a big philosophical change in regulation. And so Barr, in his statement, said the risk over dispute over the position would distract the Fed from its mission. So he's decided to resign as vice chair for supervision, which has big implications for banks. Keep an eye on bank stocks, because basically what this tells you, the Fed says it won't make any new major bank regulations until a successor's in place. And with Barr leaving, that probably means that Basel III endgame proposal, is on life support at this point, if it even has a breath left. And so that's major news for financial firms, because the Trump administration would be expected to sort of junk that. But the interesting thing is, he's not resigning as governor, and there are no openings on the Fed, at least not until January of 2026. And so the incoming administration cannot name a new person to the job. They could elevate one of the current governors to the job.
Interesting. So again, I'm just looking at the banks, over the past year, they're all up kind of 30, 40%, kind of the big banks, JP Morgan, Bank of America. So it feels like, I guess since the election, people said banks are one of the places you have to be. And I guess this is just another example of how things are changing.
Yeah, there's been a feeling that the incoming administration would pull back on the Basel III requirements, the additional capital that the big banks would have to hold. And so this is going to be seen as good news for them. And this will just sort of confirm the idea that that's probably what's going to happen.
So endgame, Basel III endgame is the endgame.
Yeah, unless this is like the Marvel movie series, where the Avengers Endgame was followed by another dozen sequels.
Okay, but to be fair, let's get into it. They wound up killing off the main characters, right? Like Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow.
Yeah.
So it was a new generation that took on after Endgame.
And now Michael Barr, goes with Iron Man.
So, but the position could still exist. He just won't do it.
The position
it's just like
exists,
a neutered position.
In theory, would have to be filled. The only one I can think of on the board right now who might take that job would be McKee Bowman. She's the essentially the small bank representative on the community bank representative on the Fed Board of Governors. She's been heavily involved in the regulatory efforts of the Fed, and has been a big opponent of a lot of what we've seen in the Basel proposals. And so she might be the choice. She is a Republican, and people had thought she might be a candidate for that job or one of the other bank regulation jobs. But at this point, she'd be about the only one I could think of that would take the job, because it's less of monetary policy and much more regulation.